So there's this old French saying I want to share with you today that goes, "We did it because we didn't know it was impossible. We did it because we didn't know it was impossible." I was told this at a really, really critical time in my life, and I'd like to share this story with you because it was so profound for me, and I think it will be for you as well. So a lot of our players don't know this. I've shared this very sparingly, but recently I graduated from an 18-month meditation apprenticeship, which I consider to be actually the biggest accomplishment of my life. Nothing I've done in business or basketball or otherwise even comes close to this. It was the biggest commitment, the hardest challenge, the deepest training, the most profound experience of my life by far. Again, nothing comes close. And entering into this, it's such a severely restrictive process and so grueling and difficult that when I share this with people, the fact that I did this and I explain it to people who are close to me, and I won't go into detail here because it's private, but they basically say, like, how did you do that? That's impossible. That's impossible. Like, how could you possibly, like, it doesn't make any sense. And yet I did do it, and other people have done it. And so this is where the story gets a little bit more personal. When I first entered into this apprenticeship, I remember I was sitting in the lounge area shortly after it started with this 40-year-old French man who was doing it as well. And we were talking about, like, how big a deal this is. And that's when he said this comment to me. He said, "We have this saying in France, we did it because we didn't know it was impossible." And I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, we did it because we didn't know it was impossible. We think that this is, like, truly possible. Others think that it's impossible, but we don't believe that. And so here's where it gets interesting. We enter into this apprenticeship, and once you sign on, like, there's no turning back. You have to go all the way. There's no option. A couple weeks later, I've like flown home from the place where I did it. And a couple weeks later, COVID hits. I had no idea what was going to happen next. The whole world went into lockdown, all of my plans, and, like, my teacher was all the way across the world, so I had no access to him. I was completely alone in isolation doing this extremely intense training by myself. If you had told me ahead of time that this is the way it was going to go and this is the way I had to do it, I would have thought maybe that might be impossible. That might be absolutely and totally impossible, disaster waiting to happen. And yet, here we are more than 18 months later, I've fully graduated, and it was one of the best, the best experience of my life. And so I did that because I didn't know it was impossible. I had no idea what was coming, and I entered into it not knowing that, and so I did it. So the reason that I'm sharing this with you is to point out to you that there are a whole bunch of limitations that you're placing in your mind on what you're capable of, what you may or may not be able to do, that ultimately are just not true. You have no idea what you're capable of if you really open up to the possibility that the impossible is possible. The only thing that's making it impossible is the fact that you think it's impossible. So we did it because we didn't know it was impossible. Where are you holding back because you just don't think it's possible? And where can you just push the pedal to the floor and say, let me find out? And I promise you, what you find out will be so much greater than what you would have expected. And it will be what others believe to be completely and totally impossible. So I know this one was a little bit philosophical and maybe a little bit personal, but this is a really profound thought, and allow that to sink in and consider it deeply. And I will see you in the next one.
Hey, it's Taylor. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you did, the best thing to do right now while it's fresh in your mind is to head over to deepgame.com and join us in our free masterclass. Now, this is where you'll learn all 8 laws of the deep game and all of the fundamentals that you need to know about the part of basketball that's played with the mind. We've had players call this the best hour of basketball learning of their lives, and it's completely free right now. So head over to deepgame.com to join us, and I will see you there.